ready to
Bomba! Welcome to Bomba Live, the show you've been waiting for. Thank you so much for joining us. This is your host, Collazo. Subscribe to Bomba Live on YouTube and anywhere you can download a podcast for the show you've been waiting for your entire life. These are the insightful and entertaining conversations you can only get con Bomba here on Bomba Live from the top of Philadelphia in the iconic Pyramid Club. I am here with my co-host, author, trainer, y la reina dominicana de TikTok, Dionely Reyes. How are you, Dionely?
I feel fantastic. I'm so excited to be here. And I want to give a special shout out and express our gratitude to SBX Productions for producing today's show.
Yes. Those guys are pros. We're going to learn more about the XBX production experience and the great team that we have here at Pyramid Club. Dionely, before we get into the show, this is really exciting here. We're on top of Philadelphia. Explain to people watching throughout Philadelphia, throughout the country, in Santo Domingo, lo que sea, the atmosphere here, that we're literally on top of Philadelphia here, aren't we?
Absolutely, we are. If you can see the view behind us, we are part of the Philadelphia skyline. Así que if you guys look up the Philadelphia skyline, we're part of it right now. What's the building that you can see in the reflection in the back? The Comcast building.
Comcast building, where all it happens, you know, NBC and the whole thing. So
we can see all parts of Philly from here.
This is a wonderful venue, and people learn more about XBX, the Pyramid Club, and our wonderful collaboration here. So Dionely, for people, and sort of, this is Bomba Live 2.0, the new season of Bomba Live, kind of the new vision that we have for it being a regular talk show that inspires, entertains con nuestro sabor, ¿verdad que sí? So what I want people to get out of this episode is really learn and catch up with you, because we have you've been a wonderful contributor to the Bomba Live experience and with your own platforms at Dionely ETC. But, you know, for people that want to re-catch up with you, because not only is it good to talk to you, but also to have this conversation now, because we've seen how not only your personal journey has been reflected in social media and in your content. So I think that'll be really interesting. But it's interesting, Dionely, because in this generation, you actually started your content career in many ways as an author. So can you share with us why you chose to become an author and the initial message you wanted to share?
Well, the reason I decided to become an author is because I went through a tough time in my life, and Papa Dios helped me through that. And I made a promise that I would share my testimony with people. So that's why I co-authored the book, Delayed But Not Denied 3. And my part was surviving gaslighting, living your truth. But you know that we've all, as a society, survived, you know, I don't know, could we say it? The pandemic?
Yeah.
So the point is that you can't stay on survival mode. You have to heal and then get into thriving mode. And that's where I feel like I am now.
And then that's where the evolution, I think we've all seen it on Dionely ETC's platforms, right? So can you talk about how you feel like your content has evolved based off how you see your journey evolving?
Absolutely. Because before I would focus more on like the problem and identifying the problem, but then I moved more into focusing on the solution. And a big part of focusing on the solution is focusing on ourselves, me focusing on myself and healing and learning what I could do differently, like having boundaries, standards. Like a lot of people, especially us in our community, we're so used to just giving and giving and giving. And many times it's fine because we're surrounded by a lot of kind and loving people, but then there's people that take advantage of that. So I learned the importance of having, like I said, boundaries and standards, and being able to heal, and going to the gym. I became a certified trainer. That has helped a lot. I also want people to normalize going to therapy with a psychologist. That helps a lot. Like doing the actual work, not just aparentar, like seem like you're good. You actually have to do the work and be actually good, not just look like it.
I want to talk about your fitness journey in a second, but Dionely, it's interesting because you and I have had these conversations over the years. Because I remember a phase where, and I told you this if you remember, I said, Dionely, your content's too depressing and too serious. Like you never smile. And then I went through a phase as like someone that that, you know, wanted to help build your platform and build your presence on the show,
Mhm.
where I think I was trying to the content that I thought you should be doing on the show was like not serious enough for you. Like it was a little too silly, a little too
Yes.
fanandula. And so we had to kind of, as we were partnering on content creating, kind of really kind of hone in on what was the balance, and it really spoke to you.
Mhm.
So how have you seen, do you feel like how it seems like you're in a good place with feeling comfortable where your content is right now?
Absolutely. And something that I do and I believe firmly on is praying when I have any doubts about anything.
Mhm.
And I got to focus on where I'm going and not so much where I've been or where I am. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And you've helped me out a lot with that too. Cause you're like, what do you mean? Cause sometimes I have doubts and you're like, you could do it. What are you talking about? And then
Yeah.
you remind me and I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try.
Well, you and I are both similar in that I think people that see us like the front safe facing, the content, that they say, oh, you all are confident, you're comfortable
Hmm.
speaking, you know, in your case, you're comfortable singing.
Hmm.
And, you know, but we also, you know, that sometimes masks insecurities that we
Hmm.
have. And part of why we sometimes you know, we in some ways kind of are working these things out with our content, not just for ourselves, but also to help other people.
You know what's helped me out the most, aside from me developing my relationship with God, is being a mother. And a lot of times I give my son advice and I'm like, I should be following this advice. So I'm like, don't be afraid to take
Yeah.
your chances on good things that you'll enjoy. And then if you make a mistake, just laugh about it. Having a sense of humor is so important.
Yeah, you can't take yourself too seriously.
Absolutely.
The When you all crack on me, because the Bomba Life crew is always like cracking on me in WhatsApps and all kind of places. But seriously, that first of all, that keeps me humble, which is a good thing.
Hmm.
But also that, to your point, a lot of times people seeing you what you don't see in yourself.
Hmm.
And so I've struggled with, I mean, I've been podcasting 10 years and I've always felt like, wow, I should be like bigger. I should be like, you know, further ahead in some way. But that one of the things that you all, the Bomba Life community, we really try to preach to each other is that it isn't about like the biggest numbers and like having the most followers. It's like, how are we impacting people in real ways? And so and when it comes to the Latino piece, and I think you and I are similar, it's like, you can't just do personal development. You can't just do talking about Anuel and Yailin, and we're going to talk about them in a
Yeah.
second. You can't just do politics. Like, you know, we have to really, we're comfortable in a space to develop content to show the diversity of who we are as people.
Exactly. Being authentic, just remaining authentic and leaving content, just giving content to people que aporte,
Mm-hmm.
that is good for you. I tell people like you could enjoy like junk food once in a while, but
Yes.
if that's all you consume, then it's gonna affect your health. So it's the same thing with content. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? You gotta keep it varied. You gotta also have like the healthier parts and all that to balance it out.
That's right. So
Hmm.
talk to me about this fitness journey, Dionely. I've been seeing you doing your thing, and now you're a trainer. So talk to me about talk to me a little bit about that journey over the last few years.
Oh my goodness. So it's all been part of the healing process, like focusing on myself. And I had to, how do I say this? Let me see. Because sometimes there are a lot of people who, to deal with certain things, they go to alcohol or they go to other things. And then I will go to like food. And that's so easy to do, especially when you're surrounded with people that want to cook for you all the time.
Yeah.
And then you feel bad saying
Un caribeño,
no.
forgot about it. Yeah.
Yeah. You get bad, you feel bad saying no. But once you learn that you're supposed to have boundaries and people need to be okay with you saying no or just not having as much as they want you to have. Because did you have that growing up too? It's like, you got to finish the plate. Why didn't you eat all the
Oh
food on
yeah,
the
no, and
plate? What
then
is it? You
because
didn't
then I'm
like
the
it?
oldest, so then the oldest has to be the, you know, the one to clean up the plate, and then then it happens with at home too, because when you're the dad, you're the garbage disposal because the boys don't finish it. My wife's like, oh, eat the last chuleta, or you know,
Hmm.
I want all my food to be eaten, and it's like, you know, so yeah, you're right. It's part of it's a beautiful thing in our culture, but it's
Yes,
also a challenge on the fitness.
exactly. And then also, I didn't want to focus on myself because I felt selfish. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like, I need to pour more into myself so I have more to give of me that's more positive and healed and all of that. So then I'm like, okay, so let me see, how am I supposed to eat? So then I focused on my diet. And I realized, okay, so this is how much protein I'm supposed to eat per day. This is how much water I'm supposed to drink. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of water.
Fiber. Oh, there's healthy fats, So I understood that. And then like I inspired more people in my family. Like my mom goes to the gym all the time now.
That's wonderful.
You know what I mean? And
That's
I'm
wonderful.
like, we should just like, instead of going out to restaurant, let's go hang out at the gym. You know what I mean? Like we could still go to restaurants, but let's normalize going to the gym and having fun that way. Um, and then it got to a point where I didn't lose more weight and I couldn't like eat less because you're not, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, well, how am I going to get trimmer? So then, okay, I got to lift weights. So then I decided to like study it and I became certified. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so you're supposed to lift heavy weights as a woman. And I'm not like going to become like uh, Hulk Hogan or The Rock or whatever.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed doing that. It became fun. So.
And we're going to talk more about Dionely's fitness journey on future Bomba Live episodes. You have a lot to share. And the fact that one of the messages you're giving to us today, Dionely, is you need to be a lifelong learner.
Yes.
And explore different things. And I started later in life exploring cooking a little bit. And I'm like, well, I actually like it. And I actually have a little ability with certain things. So it's something we always have to. It's the fun part of life is that you figure on some level, and it happened with my health journey when I got Guillain-Barré last year.
Yes.
Is that then I turned to fitness, and maybe we'll talk about this in the next segment a little bit, but that it's like, wow, this is like rewarding in that I know I'm not destined to be sloppy forever because I do have a path now to feel better. But also I was on such a floor that I have so much, I'm going to see a lot of improvement because I'm kind of starting from scratch because of my illness, but that's given me a lot of motivation. So I think there's, even with things you don't feel comfortable about, there's silver linings. And once you give yourself the gift of trying to learn things, you find a lot of blessings in it.
And give yourself time too. Like I'm not complete in my journey, in my fitness journey at all, but I'm way better than I was before. And I'm looking forward to improving myself more in a healthy way. Because there's a lot of people that are like, I used to be like that. Oh, I want to look good. Let me just go and get una lipo and get surgery. Like that's really popular. And that is.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
That is something that is temporary because your body is still not fit. It's still not healthy.
Yeah.
So when you learn to love yourself more, you realize that health is the goal. It's not just looking
some
good.
of the saddest things you see now, especially with these real young women, is that they're 23, 24, and they're getting all this plastic surgery and they still are miserable. And they think, for anybody, they think that this is going to solve their problem. When it's like, what they look like is not really the problem. It's about how they feel about themselves and how they view their value as it relates to themselves and other people. Dionely, we're going to take a break in a second. You're going to turn the tables on me. We're also going to have your regular Mientras Tanto segment. You're going to give us some inspirational words about considering playing off some of the hot headlines that we're talking about in the barbershops and the salones de belleza. And we're also going to have a found in translation segment. I'm going to catch people up about what I think is the Bad Bunny effect in politics. So please subscribe to Bomba Live on YouTube. Anywhere you can download a podcast. And we come back, Dionely's going to interview Ray Collazo here on Bomba Live, the talk show you've been waiting for.
Mara! I just found out that Ray Collazo is celebrating his 10-year anniversary of being in the podcasting world. Ray, thank you so much for your humanity and for your humility. You've been a great friend to me, and I wish you nothing but great continued success, my friend. A la familia de Bomba Live, sigan por ahí gozando de la funky Bacalao.
Welcome back to Bomba Live, the show you've been waiting for. I'm Dionely Reyes from Dionely Etc., published author, certified personal trainer, and as Rey calls me, the Dominican queen of TikTok.
Absolutamente. ¿De qué parte de Santo Domingo es usted, Dionely?
Yo soy del Cibao, mi amor, de Monción.
Monción,
Yes.
Beautiful part of the island.
Absolutely.
And as people know that for people to really know about Dominicans know that there's a lot of interesting cultural differences regionally between Cibaeñas like yourself and people from the capital region. So y'all talk different. You got a lot going on.
So
y'all started the bachata movement. Let's keep it real.
One of the main things that us Cibaeños do, and sometimes it happens to me, es que se me sale la I, where it doesn't go.
Wow.
But I'm like, you know what? I've been holding the E back. So si quiere salir, que salga. Que sea feliz. O si baña de corazón.
Exacto. So we will, we always have a lot. The Dominican community is a big part of the Bomba Life family. So much respect to the producer of Bomba Life, Elba Garcia, and everyone else from our Dominican community. But Dionely, you're here to interview me, my friend. So let me be quiet here while let the Dominican Queen take over for a second.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Yeah, as ready as I'm going to be at this point.
Or something?
I mean, I don't think T's got something for my brow. We'll do the best we can.
You're looking a bit shiny there.
There you go. Not as shiny as Tay, but that's another story.
Okay, so Rey, you began your podcast journey 10 years ago. Yeah. So what made you choose podcasting as your platform?
It's interesting because, I think part of it was my father was a radio announcer. So radio and talking has always been in the blood. And everybody knows Collazos know we love to talk. But I think the other thing was that I was looking for an outlet. I felt selfish because of my career and people that know me. I'm the political director for a national Hispanic organization. So I'm a Philly guy, but I'm all over the place. And through that journey, thank you. Through that journey, I have collected, obviously there's a lot of political lessons and campaigns and relationships, but I've collected all these amazing friends. And so really I started my podcast to kind of get away from work and the day job and to really have an outlet to talk about all these amazing stories that I've had with my friends. So my friends from Chicago and Miami and around the country, just talking to them about their lives and their inspirational stories. I kind of felt most of their stories were more interesting than mine. I mean, I grew up in the hood, but my family was always sort of middle class. They worked for the city. We had health care. They spoke English. They had advantages that other Latinos, even our neighbors, didn't have. So I always kind of felt like I wanted to uplift the stories of my immigrant friends and people that just had more, that just dealt with a lot of interesting challenges. So that's really where I started. And then the journey, I've just felt it's been such a fun platform, but also so needed for Latinos so we can have these conversations where we can't really have in Spanish TV and you don't really have in Spanish radio. And in English language, there's very few outlets. So it's really been, I think it's such an important platform. And I just love it. And I really am more committed ever before to uplift these stories of our network.
So it's like you became the change that you wanted to see.
Well, I wanted to be I really struggle with it, Dionely, because I tell people that podcasting is like, for me, is actually a spiritual journey. Talking about your point, you were talking about for you, right? Because I think on some level, it's a battle between my ego. And because, yes, obviously I love to do this. It's obvious that I love this and I think I have something to share. But when I'm in a place where I understand that really the purpose of this platform is not to show how wonderful I am, it's really to open the larger world to this network of people. It's still the same mission. Like all of our collaborators need their own platforms and bigger. And there's so many stories to share and so many spaces where we have to establish our own space to have these conversations. So the more I am giving in the platform, the more God elevates what we're doing. And so that for me, it's really been as much a spiritual journey as a creative journey.
And how has your podcast content evolved over the decade?
It's been interesting because in the beginning, it was like, get away from my job, don't talk politics, and just talk about these inspirational people that I know. And then I noticed that women that I knew would give me feedback about the show, but none of the guys would ever talk about it. So I'm like, you guys, my buddies aren't listening. So long and short, I confronted a few of them. I was like, I know you don't listen because you never asked me about it. Hey, Ray, sorry, it's just we like sports. So I set up a whole sports talk thing. So I did sports talk for a while with the guys, and that was fun. And we do a lot of sports. If you go to YouTube, or Bomba Live's YouTube page, we have a whole segment of sports that we do on a regular basis with men and women. But then Trump came in our lives in 2015.
Oh, yes.
And then people were like, hey, Ray, you're the political guy that we know. People got into politics more than ever, one way or another. And so then I really had to focus my content on giving people what I felt was accurate information. They decide ultimately what they want to do around what was going on. And that continued for some time. And again, if you do deep dives into politics, we do a healthy amount of content on Bomba Live's YouTube page. You'll see it. And so that's a big part of what we do. But then the COVID happened. And then specifically all the Puerto Rican and Latino festivals obviously couldn't happen. And I was like, hold on, we're not going to have a Puerto Rican parade. We're not going to have a Latino. So Bomba Live started as a special, as you know, Dionely, you were a big part of it, virtual Puerto Rican celebration.
And how many hours long was it?
It was 8 hours. I was ridiculous. No, actually, with the after party, it was 10. We had, so yeah, it was old school. I'm old school. You know, it's like the old school telethons I was a kid.
And it was live, you guys.
We did a 10-hour live show. It was unbelievable. Yes. But it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of Frankie Negron, Bernie Williams, Dr. Rosa Clemente, all of our freestyle friends, all of our hosts. You're going to see on Bomba Live are a part of it. It's very substantive. We have people all over the country. So that proved to me, I said, hold on, I could do something that's a little more culturally authentic, and in a way we can do it to encompass all of the content that we are interested in, because you know how it is, people are like, oh, stick to one thing, have this little niche, but I'm like, it's impossible, because if we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about Yailin and Anuel and Tekashi in a minute, if that's all I talk about on the weekend and my wife texts me about every time there's some drama on Instagram, we're not going to talk about it, because that's part of who we are. So being okay with being diverse with the content has been something I've come to grips with. And actually, it's been a relief on me. And that's why we're here at the Pyramid Club, because you bring a lot of content to the table. Christina, Zulai, Vanessa, Albert, Monty, all the people that are going to be my co-hosts, all bring a different flavor and a perspective in what's going on in our community. And that's what's going to make the show the best it could be.
So it's like having a balanced diet of content.
I tell you always, I tell you, Dominicanas always have their little phrases. And I remember I had a woman, I'm not going to say her name, but she worked for me. She was from Camden, you're a South Jersey person. And she was a college student at the time. She was interning for me. And so I said, well, she was like, oh, I'm stressing because I don't have enough money for the semester. And then she said, her mom said, venga arriba. And she pulled $2,000 out of her mattress. it said in Spanish, she said, Dominican women always have a little something.
Un clavo, claro.
For emergencias. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
You got to take, y'all are very independent. So
always.
she took care of business. But yeah, no, that's a big part of who we are is bringing everyone to the table.
Definitely. So what is the message you want people to take from Bomba Live?
I think there's a couple things. I think we're going to talk about the Bad Bunny effect in a second and how it relates to the politics. I think there's definitely a need for like Latinos and non-Latinos to kind of have more sense of who we are, because, and we're going to talk about this in a second, that culturally Latinos are becoming so prominent so fast that I think that's impacting the political stuff. So people can, and that's part of why we do it in English, so that more people kind of be exposed to it and into our culture and to what we do, even though we do Spanglish and Spanish all the time. The other thing is that I think the biggest thing ultimately I want people to get out of this is that, going back to the spiritual comment you had earlier, Dionely, is that God doesn't tease you. And I'm saying that to say that we all have these things we want to do in our heads, that are in our hearts and our heads, that we want to do. The question isn't if God doesn't give you the direction. People say, oh, God, what do I do? What do I do? God's giving you the direction. Sometimes God's beating you over the head over it.
Yes.
The issue is we're not brave enough to accept it. Because if you accepted the path, it's most likely much more challenging than where you're at right now. It involves work. It involves sacrifice. It involves a commitment and a belief that this is going to work out. And I've shared this with you, Dionely, to be very transparent with people. I've done this for 10 years. I've been pretty successful in everything I've done. And I feel like this is the one thing that's been the hardest thing. That is, even after 10 years, I'm not, on some big TV station and not making millions off it. But I think it's God's way of saying, Collazo, if this is the thing you really want, and the thing that's going to be the most, that I'm sharing with, I'm putting you on this path to impact people in a real way, then it's going to be a process. And you're going to have to learn. And that's why, but God brought us to the Pyramid Club and SBX, who are experts, the XBX guys. And all of you all. It went for Syria and your other friends, I would have never met you. So, there's a reason that we've all been brought together for this experience. And I just want to, if you only get one thing out of the show, fam, for real, listen to what God's trying to tell you, but you got to accept it and take the responsibility to do what God needs you to do, because it's not going to be easy. If you really want something and something that really is going to impact people and your life and your family, you're going to have to work for it.
There are growing pains that come with the process.
Big time.
Absolutely. So, in today's Found in Translation segment, Ray wanted to discuss the Bad Bunny effect on our politics. ¿De qué se trata eso?
Yeah, so, and again, for people that want to do deep dives into our political content, just go to Bomba Live's YouTube page. Our Found in Translation channel has all of our more deeper political segments. But in terms of this Found in Translation segment, I want to talk about the Bad Bunny effect. Bad Bunny, amongst many accolades, has just been named the most streamed person on Spotify ever. And so, as you know, Dionely, you know the music scene, you know entertainment, you know that there's plenty more where he's coming from. I think out of the top, if you look at Spotify, YouTube, every year now, 7 of the top 10 artists are Spanish speaking. That doesn't speak to the fact that the biggest beer in our country is Modelo, the biggest sauce in our country is salsa. And so the culture, the Latino influence in culture is happening very quickly, and it's happening in front of our eyes. And I don't think we sort of even acknowledge it sometimes how we are establishing ourselves in a very authentic way in terms of mainstream culture. Bad Bunny is mainstream now, and all these things we're talking about are mainstream now. And so one of the things that's happening, and obviously people would point to Obama becoming us having a black president, but that a lot of people, because our society is changing so quickly, are really nervous about it. Now, I would argue irrationally and in a way that's very harmful, but the reality is that there's a reaction to this culture that's changing very fast. And so one of the things that I would encourage people to do, Heather McGee is an author and intellect. I'd love to have her on the show. She has a book called The Sum of Us, Dionely, and I would like people to read that book, or at least, skim it, because what Heather McGee writes about and argues is that racism and this pushback at immigrants and this pushback against the gay community is that people are actually supporting things that would hurt them because of this atmosphere of fear that's been created. So going to Florida and what's happened in Florida, they just passed a law. They passed a lot of laws, but that one of the ones I wanted to mention here was that they just passed a law basically to make it very difficult for undocumented immigrants to work in the state. And so you don't have to be an economic genius to understand that without immigrant Latinos picking oranges, cleaning hotel rooms, building roofs on houses, the construction industry. I mean, most sectors in the state of Florida, you need immigrant labor, and we don't give out enough visas for everybody to have all their papers together. So DeSantis supporters, Republican supporters, conservative supporters are literally supporting a policy that's going to mess up their money. I mean, think about it. If all those immigrant workers leave the state, who's going to build the roads? Who's going to build all the housing? Who's going to mow the lawns? Who's going to work? Who's going to serve you a drink in a nightclub? It's hurt there. This atmosphere of fear and this Bad Bunny effect is actually, people are actually supporting things that will hurt them. And so I would encourage people, and there's a lot of examples of this related to kind of the Black Civil Rights struggle. I would encourage people to do some research on it. But this Latino culture, we're not going away. It's only going to be bigger and more prominent. So let's sit down and figure out how we can work together. It's a lot more fun when we work together and exchange cultures than pass policies to hurt each other, when ultimately it's just going to hurt all of us together.
We're all here together, so we might as well figure out a way to get along. Right?
And the Latino culture is so inclusive. So we love the fact, and we love to exchange culture amongst ourselves, right? With our different nationalities. I'm always shouting out my El Salvadorians, my Chileans, my Ecuadorians, because we do have to learn, even amongst the Latino community, about ourselves and everybody. We want this to be a forum for everybody, but Latinos are going to be front and center in leading these conversations here on Bomba Live.
Absolutely. You know what? I did a presentation at my son's school in Hispanic Heritage Month. And I learned so much from doing the presentation about how different each of the Hispanic countries are. Yeah. And I'm like, well, the country that we're from, it identifies who we are, like our identity, but it's not an excuse to separate us.
Absolutely.
Like we all just got to respect each other's culture and learn to get along. Yeah. And enjoy. Dime.
I was just, we actually posted it today, my interview with African-American journalist Nikki Mayo, and she was saying how she grew up in the South. She didn't grow up with a lot of Latinos, and then she went to college in New York and went to school with my brother and a bunch of Puerto Rican Dominicans, and she learned a lot, and she learned about the similarities between Black Southern food, Black Caribbean food, and Latino Caribbean food, and rice and beans and, maduros and all that stuff. So there's a lot of beautiful things we can learn together for sure. But speaking of learning, Dionely, we're gonna take a pause from the politics because you have your segment, which we're really excited to have on the show, Mientras Tanto. So what Dionely's gonna do when she appears on Bomba Live is that, to break through the noise with politics and all the crazy issues of the day, she's gonna give us some tips and some thoughts around things that are happening in our society and what we can do about it to better ourselves during your Mientras Tanto segment. I'm really excited about, Dionely. So what's on your mind today?
So, a lo que se resuelve the big issues, the big political and social issues, what can we do in the meantime? Mientras tanto. So, my question is, have you left your toxic partner yet? Not to you, Ray, just in general.
You're going to get me in trouble,
That's
girl.
the subject. No.
I got no
That's just
toxicity in my life. I'm
in
clean.
general.
Yes.
Because that came to mind when I was seeing, because it's all over social media, the whole drama with Yailin and her
Oh my God, Tekashi,
her future ex-husband. I think they're still married. Tekashi, Anuel,
Karol G. No, and then
Karol
Arcángel
G.
got into it. Like Rochi's into. I don't even understand that part of it. But it's crazy.
A mess. And Yailin, she came out with a song recently called Narcisista. And I feel like the red flags were there a long time ago. You know what I mean? But sometimes, like you said, like, we want God to lead us, but he's like letting us know, and we don't want to see it. We don't want to accept it. For example, one of the things that Anuel did, all this is allegedly because I wasn't there. He was kind of trying to make Karol G, his ex, jealous with Yailin. And that's called triangulation, when somebody plays two people against each other. And speaking down about exes too, like la campaña de difamación.
But now that he's not with Yailin, now he's trying to get back with Karol G.
And Karol G is
it's
like,
just
I'm
a mess.
over it.
It is just a mess.
I like that Karol G, she kept it classy. I mean, she threw un par de puya aquí allá, but she kept it classy and she just let time reveal the truth.
So some people are so how can people identify when there's the difference between like just kind of working things out in a relationship or when it's really toxic, you got to evaluate the whole situation?
In any kind of relationship you have, work environment, friends, family, your romantic partner, there should always be respect. Like, if you have a disagreement, that's not an excuse for someone to disrespect you. So sometimes my friends tell me their situation and I ask them, what made you think you deserve to be disrespected? And then they start thinking. And some of the things that made them think that way is things from like their childhood. Things happen, things were normalized. Maybe they saw their parents being that way. So that's why I'm like, you guys, you got to do the work and go seek therapy.
They don't think they're going to do any better.
Heal.
There's those kind of thinking.
And there's still a little bit of stigma that people that go to psychologists son loco. And it's like, no, la gente loca no va a ver psicólogo willingly. Like, if you're going willingly, it's just you're kind of getting in your own way. So that helps you get out of your way so you could evolve and fulfill the purpose God has for you. So some people live their life coping instead of doing the work it takes to heal by seeking therapy with a psychologist. And then they wonder why they're stuck in a cycle. Because, like, for example, I'm going back to Yailin. So Yailin left Anuel, and now, allegedly, she's with Tekashi. And I'm like, they are very similar, Yailin.
Going from bad to worse.
And it seems like he's doing the same things that Anuel was doing in the beginning, love bombing with gifts and all this stuff.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's like that's a red flag, because true love se da al paso, with time.
It's a show thing. Yeah.
It's like getting fit. You got to give yourself time. You didn't get out of shape overnight. You're not going to get fit overnight. So you got to give yourself time to heal. And if you feel like you can't be alone, that's because some people are like, oh, I need to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend or somebody with me all the time. And they'll say that's a red flag too. So you got to be able to be by yourself and understand that you're in good company even when you're by yourself. So, and then, like I said, like, healthy love is, well, to heal people, respecting each other's boundaries. A lot of people that I talk about boundaries to, they're like, what do you mean boundaries? It's just like, when you have a relationship with somebody, it's not about each of you giving your all completely, because that's really romanticized. That's how they say in songs.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah,
no,
it's never 50-50.
That's not healthy, you guys.
But to your point, it was funny because when you talk about boundaries, I was thinking about Keke Palmer with her man, calling her out on social media. It's like, hey, you saw her walk out the house. Maybe you should have had a conversation before. You know, like, I'm not saying he should have had an issue with that. You can argue that, but it's like, why are you putting it out here publicly for us to be a part of it? That's y'all life.
I don't understand how all of a sudden he wants to be a traditional partner, a traditional man in a romantic relationship, when she's the one that's the provider in the relationship. Like, pick a side. Either you're going to be a kept man that's feminine, or you're going to be a masculine man that's a provider and protector.
Yeah.
So that's something else that I talk about in my social media. And a lot of people are mad at that.
It's like, dude, Usher, I mean, you know, give her everyone. I mean, come on, give her a second. You know what I mean? She wasn't doing anything. The dress wasn't even that bad. I've seen, you know.
Absolutely. And remember that toxic people go around looking for people with low standards and weak boundaries to infiltrate their lives and wreak havoc to drag you down to their level. So what can people do to get away from that? If someone's in a toxic relationship, a lot of times you can't just sit down with that person and say, hey, listen, I don't think it's working out. We should break up. They're not going to take it well. They're probably going to do like a hoovering, love bombing tactic to try to keep you stuck there. So you literally have to escape. Like, you got to like plan, are you going to leave? And then I guess find a way to notify them.
And unfortunately, we've seen, you know, Christina Vega, who's one of our co-hosts and co-producers, you know, with her work of Love Shouldn't Hurt, she actually helps women plan doing that.
Yes.
That are in real situations where violence is involved. And that's something that we have to continue to support, you know, especially women in their journeys, because unfortunately escaping is actually part of a lot of scenarios.
And there's men that go through that too. Something else they can do in the meantime is do the gray rock strategy, which is where you don't react to what they're doing and what they're saying. You just save that energy, because a lot of people, toxic people, they just want to get a reaction out of you, but you don't want to waste your energy doing that.
So Dionely, give us a final thought around, you know, this situation. Anything else you wanted to share related to helping people identify toxic relationships and how to grow from there?
So a toxic relationship is like a roller coaster ride, and that becomes addictive because it's like you get like this hit of amazing love bombing and, oh my God, that person's so loving to me, they're showing me so much attention, and then you go down when they're like ignoring you, they're ghosting you, or they're being mean or indifferent, and then all of a sudden they're up love bombing you again. Healthy love isn't like that. Healthy love to someone that has been in a toxic relationship and they haven't taken the time to heal and just be completely single and focus on themselves, healthy love will seem boring because it's peaceful. So
yeah.
That's why I'm like, Yailin, take it slow. What are you doing?
Yeah, well, I mean, Tekashi, that's another
so
story.
They need to also write down the list of horrors, is what it's called, where you write down like everything they have done because like negative, because people tend to forget.
Well, we as people that consume their content, we're guilty of it too, because, you know, the Yailin Tekashi Anuel situation was like effed up from the beginning. But we're all talking about it. We're all into it. The excitement. And then now kids have gotten involved, and and people getting threatened. It's gotten way too far.
I watch it to learn. Like, they get ratings, but I'm like, people should learn from their mistakes. And we're seeing like this whole drama play out in front of us.
That's right.
So should I share the hotline number?
Yeah, real quick.
Okay, so there's help out there, and you could contact the domestic violence hotline at 1-800-799-7233, and the website is thehotline.org.
Dionely Reyes. Dionely, thank you so much for being part of the first episode that we produced here on top of Philadelphia at the iconic Pyramid Club. Shout out to our homies, the producers, XBX Productions. Dionely, this was an incredible experience. You're going to be back very soon. And I want to encourage people to, again, subscribe to Bomba Live on YouTube. Subscribe, download the podcast. Anywhere you download a podcast, you can check out the show you've been waiting for your whole life. These are the only this is the only place you can really have these insightful and entertaining conversations con Bomba. Thank you so much, Dionely.
Thank you, Ray.